Welcome to HeartMind-ify. Before we start the show, just a reminder to share, rate, and subscribe to this podcast wherever you're listening to it. And please give us a 5-star rating. It helps us beat the big tech algorithms.
I'm John Izzy. Change can be difficult for a lot of us, but when we understand what makes us tick, we develop a better understanding of who we are and begin a journey of discovering our best self. Join me for a free session at johnizzy.com.
And I'm Kim Cordy, creator of the Emotion Chef Framework, an emotion management tool. Thoughts drive emotions, and emotions drive thoughts, but it's our emotions that drive our decisions and behaviors. Find out more at kimcordy.com.
Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Knowing each other personally and socially for the past 10 years, Kim and John have joined forces, bringing years of experience and training, providing a platform for growth and personal development, along with a little humor. John is the heart, Kim is the mind, and together they are HeartMind-ify. Well, hello, Kim. How are you doing?
I'm okay. I know day, fantastic, but this has been a tough few days. The news has really gotten to me.
Yeah, it really has. I live in an area where I'm about 40 miles away from the riots going on in DC, and it really is nerve-wracking, and it's kind of scary to see our country go down this path. And yeah, I've got a lot of emotions going on. So
It's a lot. It definitely is a lot. But I've been trying to look at other things, turn off the news, try to focus on not on that all the time, or else it would just be too much. I have, though, noticed that we've gotten some good feedback, which we're so new, it makes me feel pretty good.
yeah, that is nice to see. That is nice to see.
I got a call from my friend, and she said, "Oh, Kim, I just listened to your and John's podcast for the first time. Wow, it was actually good." And I'm like, "You're my friend. Why are you you sound a little too shocked."
Well, it's funny because I have people coming up to me that I see all the time that go, "I've got a topic for your podcast. You should have me on." It's kind of funny just to hear. Now everybody has an idea, right? I love it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, John, you mentioned it last week, but why don't you tell us again? What is your topic for today?
Well, I told everyone that your value doesn't decrease based on someone else's inability to see your worth. But, where did this thought come from? So I've been all over social media watching videos on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. And since I follow a lot of people that are dealing with self help or self awareness issues, I've been seeing a disturbing trend. The majority of these people are young too. They're maybe late teens, some are even earlier in age. There are too many people allowing others to determine their value, or as stated in the quote, their self worth. I mean, it's not surprising, right? But it concerns me that if we continue to allow other people to dictate what we should feel like, or what we should wear, or what we should drive, or how we should live, or how we should walk in the world, then we lose what makes us who we are, and we become emotionally dependent on others. And that can be a huge problem, not only for us as individuals, but for society as a whole.
So true. I remember back when I was a kid, wearing Ditto jeans, everyone started wearing them, so I had to have them, or a certain kind of shoe, or you do get influenced, right?
Yeah.
But to have your dependency, I can't remember now if I was dependent, but I didn't have someone liking or not liking it, or making comments that I couldn't respond to because it was on a social media platform. It's really, really changed. The pressure, the influence has changed, and it sounds like emotional dependency now.
Well, yeah, and it's not only happening to young people, but eventually young people grow into older people.
Yep.
And the thoughts and behaviors stay the same, right? It's as if they have to fit a certain mold when they're young and they continue to try and fit in the same mold as they age. So it's this constant battle that they have to fight daily. So, it's interesting. There was an article written on a website, Exploring Your Mind. And in the article, they referenced Roger Crawford. I don't know if you know him, but
I do not.
he was the first American athlete to play Division One college tennis with a severe disability. And Division One is your top schools, right? It's your NCAA, it's your big name schools. He's now a motivational speaker and he's an author. So Mr. Crawford said this. He said, being challenged in life is inevitable. Being defeated is optional. And I think this applies here so well. When we allow others to determine our successes, then we are giving them power over us. And to make matters worse, it's our choice. So we are choosing to allow another person to take our power. Human beings are social beings.
Yes.
We like to be pleased and we like to please and share things with others. But this need for approval can be harmful. It's one of the causes of emotional dependence, right? If you are the type of person that needs to please everyone or seek their approval for your own happiness, then this will most likely lead you down a path of depending on someone else for your emotional and physical happiness. But not only that, Barbara DeAngelis, who is an author, said, if you aren't good at loving yourself, you will have a difficult time loving anyone, since you'll resent the time and energy you give another person that you aren't even giving to yourself. Do you agree?
I do. And some of it is actually just a part of how you're raised, and that's the image of what you had, like, when my sister and I were being raised. My mom did everything for my dad. She denied herself so much because she gave to us kids and to my father. I don't
You
know
might
if
as well.
it, yeah, right? And
Yeah,
and so you think that's how you're supposed to be. It's so true though that you have this whole pattern of that gets developed, and I remember Brian Clemmer, who's no longer with us, but he talked about how you're a giver and then you have a taker, and then eventually the taker resents the giver for giving so much and then turns on the giver, and then the giver's like, "Well, I did all this for you and now you're doing this to me?" So it while you think that being giving is gonna bring you something, a lot of times all it does is bring you heartache.
absolutely. So when we talk about that, so what are we talking about when we say that, something or someone is emotional dependent, right? Emotional dependent people. And I'm not talking about the everyday person here, right? I'm not talking about the average Joe or Mary that goes to work every day and, likes to receive positive feedback, at times. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about people that are dependent emotionally on another person. So, emotional dependent people need affection, they need attention and approval of others to an unhealthy degree, right? We all like a little praise now and then, but when we seek it out or depend on it, then that's when we have the problem. When this happens, there is an irrational fear of loneliness and abandonment, which makes us more submissive in our interpersonal relationships. They also have a strong desire for exclusivity, saying things like they can't imagine life without their partner or without a loved one. What this means is that they present a persistent pattern of emotional needs that they can't satisfy themselves. But here's the key: they try to meet those needs by seeking inappropriate bonds with others. What's worse is that people who are emotionally dependent justify their actions by attributing them to the goal of maintaining the relationship. Mark Twain said, oh, don't you love Mark Twain?
I do. He's awesome. He's the one who said
Sorry why we digress.
yeah, well, he's the one who said the coldest winter I ever spent was a summer in San Francisco, and
Ah, yes, he did.
was is being raised in the San Francisco Bay Area. Oh my goodness, I remember telling a friend going up to a baseball game at Candlestick, and she thought it was summertime, and I was dressed for winter, and she's like, "What?" Anyway, we digressed. Go on, I'm sorry.
That's okay. But Mark Twain said, the worst loneliness is to not be comfortable with yourself. Let me repeat that. The worst loneliness is to not be comfortable with yourself. So, in chronic cases, the need for protection and affection can be so intense that you completely lose yourself in the relationship in your desire to maintain it. This creates intense and unstable bonds or false commitments to the other. The problem with depending too much on others emotionally goes back to the quote. You start to irrationally doubt your own self worth. You start to have feelings of rejection and abandonment. For some people, this can be extremely intense, which can lead to depression or a continual amount of posting on social media, looking for someone, anyone to bring you comfort and wonder why comfort never comes.
Yep.
Yep. This type of fear causes you to do anything to avoid loneliness, even if it means staying in toxic relationships or doing exactly what others say you should be doing.
You know, you did a great job of delineating between that emotional dependence, like the real emotional dependency
Mhm.
versus just doing what you think you should be doing. This is one step up. And when you talk about people doing what others say you should be doing, sometimes it's actually you inferring their wish as a command.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, just because he said, "Oh, I might wanna do that," or she said, "Hey, that looks fun," and then that's a command to have it done.
Mhm.
And it's not, it's just an idea. So thank you for clearing up that difference between your self-worth coming from someone else versus you're just being a pleaser just because that's your personality. I think I've got that right, correct?
Yeah, I think you do. People that show that kind of behavior usually suffer from a low self-esteem, right? You probably think of yourself negatively.
Yes, a huge. I mean, how could you not have low self-esteem and put someone ahead of yourself, like, all the time,
Yeah, no.
or that need for someone or something all the time?
Yeah, I totally agree. And with low self-esteem, it leads to a great need for support and affection, meaning that being dependent on others to feel good about yourself, depending on someone else to feel good about yourself. That's somebody that suffers from low self-esteem. So you end up living daily in this vicious cycle, never getting your needs met. Sure, you might feel happiness at times, but it's really short-lived. So the question is, what can we do to bounce back, right? And depend on ourselves and reject other people's demands. Basically, living to the beat of your own drum. Okay, so here are some thoughts and things to think about. Kim, do you want to add anything before I go on, or you just want me to go on?
No, I was just gonna
Uh
add
huh.
that a part of this, and maybe I should have waited until you went through all your whole
No, no,
list.
no. Go ahead.
But you have to take some time and understand what it is you really want. You Emotionally dependent people spend so much time subjugating their needs that they don't even know what they want or need anymore.
That's
Like
right.
they don't even take any time. So to me, it seems like that has to be key. At least that's what was going through my head.
That's true. And part of this taking back your power, and that's what we're going to talk about, ways to take back your power, but is to address that. But it's first to recognize what you do emotionally, what you do physically when you fall on hard times or you find yourself always being influenced by someone else making decisions for you. You know, It's important that you do take your power back, but the problem is we tend to, because of our egos, slip into old patterns that generally serve us. So, in order to change the patterns, we have to be very conscious about them. So, look at how you handle this. What do you do? When things are rough, do you sleep a lot? Do you overeat? Do you think endlessly about how unworthy you are? Or do you simply just find yourself pulling your hair out all the time,
You don't
not able to catch your
what would
breath?
you do, John? You don't have hair.
Yeah, well, I've got a beard,
Oh, I
and
guess you could pull on
so
your
I do
beard.
have hair.
I always think of the hair on the head, pulling out your hair in your head, but you're right. You could have a beard or a mustache.
That is correct. Heck, I've been bald since I was 24 years old, but anyway,
Yeah,
I'm 56, so that's a long
yeah,
time.
old
But
dude.
the key is taking your power back. But how do you do that? Kim and I, for the past 5 weeks, have talked about our emotions. We've talked about our three brains. We've talked about meditation and other self help tools to make us better people. So, here are a few things I want to share with everyone today. The first thing to do is when you find yourself depending on others or going down the path of emotional dependency, is to, and Kim, we've said this over and over again, is to stop and take a breath.
That's right.
And Kim, we talked about diaphragmatic breathing. Can you remind our listeners what that is?
That is when you breathe from your belly. When
Ah,
when you don't chest breathe, just imagine you're trying to make yourself look pregnant, even if you're a boy, and just stick
Buddha.
a little Buddha, and stick out from the lowest parts of your belly, beneath your belly button, and just push out and breathe from that diaphragm.
And let's add to that by being heart focused when you breathe. You can do this driving down the road, right? You can
Mhm.
do this watching TV or anytime you wish. Just focus on breathing through your heart. Notice where you are breathing and where the pain is, right? Are you feeling pain in your head? Are you feeling it in your neck, in your stomach? Where in your body are you feeling the need to be emotionally dependent? Noticing and recognizing it is the first step in healing it. The other thing you can do is do something each day for yourself, something that makes you feel good, both physically and psychologically. It might take some effort in the beginning, but over time, you will start to foster positive feelings towards yourself without, and this is the key, without relying on others to bring you happiness. Look at your emotions. Kim has talked about this a lot. I've talked about this a lot. We talked about this going to emotionschef.com, taking your test on the three brains. What are you feeling in your heart? Is it sadness? Is it despair? Whatever the feeling is, recognize it and try to understand the meaning behind it.
Your feelings are coming from thoughts. So thoughts drive emotions and emotions drive thoughts, but it's our emotions that drive our decisions and behaviors. So if you have thoughts that aren't true and they're driving this emotional state you're in, this is a need to question those thoughts. Are they true?
And always ask yourself why you are feeling whatever it is you're feeling. Say it's sadness. Why are you feeling sadness? And follow up with what steps can I take to feel happy again? Right? If you just land on the negative, then you're most likely going to stay in the negativity. Give yourself the freedom and give yourself options to feel happy again. That's key because that gives hope. That gives you something to work toward, right?
Yes. Oh, just one other comment. You and
Mhm.
I were taking a course that's the science of wellness.
Yeah.
And in it they talk about happiness. And people don't need a lot to be happy. The threshold they said for that according to the studies was like a certain dollar amount that wasn't very high. It was under
Mm.
100,000 a year. And the other things that we think are going to make us happy. So when you're thinking about happiness, don't make it be about things because things don't bring you happiness or all rich people would be happy and they're not.
Absolutely. And we know that's not true.
Yeah.
Another tool, Kim, I use every day is before I get out of bed in the morning, I take a scan of my body. I know that sounds strange, guys, but I try to notice anything heavy weighing on my mind. And the reason why I do that is because by recognizing it and naming it, I'm taking the power back. I'm in control of it and it's no longer in control of me. The other thing is to do things that make you happy. Talk to positive people. I don't know, watch baby animals on YouTube.
I
Whatever
know.
it is that makes you happy, just do it.
I know. I just look at my dogs,
I know, right? So do I.
right? I mean, people ask me, "What kind of dogs are those?" I say 100% cute because that's what they are.
But the point is the little things. Maybe you listen to a comedian online or catch the final moments of the Stanley Cup or even the World Series or whatever it is that makes you happy. Do a little bit of that during the day.
Yeah, find your passion.
That's it. Yeah. The most important thing is to be grateful, right? Be grateful for even the smallest things. Celebrate the small wins in your life. If you depend on others to bring you happiness, then celebrate the things that you have done on your own that made you happy without them. Maybe you're struggling financially. I was just able to pay my mortgage after 2 months.
Yay.
I was really thankful for that and grateful for the penny that I actually have. So that was exciting for me and that can be exciting for, you guys as well. You earned it. You earned it on your own. So that should be celebrated. Maybe you got a promotion at work or bought a new car or even more simple, maybe you just get the joy out of volunteering in a soup kitchen. Kim, you're volunteering at a COVID clinic, aren't you?
Yes,
Or a drive-up testing center?
it's a testing site, so people have to drive up, and I'm not even near the medical aspect of it. I applaud those people who in the heat stand in all of that gear and test people who are sitting in a car. It's amazing what they do. All I do is make sure people have their information and their driver's license, and we give them their packet, but it brings me a lot of joy. It gives me a sense of purpose because I'm there. I'm helping facilitate people getting testing. And that means a lot to me. And it brings me a lot of joy because I know they're not too joyful to be sitting in their cars for an hour, but it brings me joy.
That's it, and whatever it is, you'll begin to realize that this true happiness comes from within, right? It's internal,
Yes.
and it eventually you won't have to rely on other people to bring it to you.
And the power of that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. Very powerful.
Extremely powerful, and by practicing a little bit of these during the day or during the week, you'll begin to see the change happening without you even being aware of that the change is going on. Here are some other things you can do. Engage in good self-care. We've talked about this before. Get into nature, exercise a little bit. Nobody's asking you to run a marathon, but take 10 minutes, go to your watch, look at 10 minutes, walk for 10 minutes, turn around, walk back the same direction, and you just exercised for 20 minutes. Something very easy any of us can do. Eat well, change a little bit of the things. If you're feeling sluggish after your meal, take something heavy away. Choose relaxing activities. Everybody's got 5 minutes they can relax. If you say you don't have time, then the time that you're talking about not having is time that you actually have. So use that time to actually just relax a little bit.
Yeah, step away from the TV, right?
Right, exactly. Do some healthy talking. Don't judge yourself. A lot of people do that for you. Don't judge yourself. Avoid words or phrases that people use to put you down. There's no need for that when you're trying to bring happiness to yourself internally. All of these things take the focus off of others and puts the focus on you. You begin to realize that you can make yourself happy. And as a result, your dependence on others will be diminished.
It makes me think, John, when when they are doing the news and they have all these different cameras with different angles that are focused on different things, that's how our brain is. So we have to pick the camera that focuses on what we want to focus on. You can look in the mirror and find something wrong
Easily.
easily, and there's not always something that you can do about that. But you can accept it and you can say, "It gives me character." Instead of being critical, say, "I see character in that face." Very few people are stunningly beautiful. I can remember as a young girl, my friend's mom said, "I want you to go down to the mall and I want you to sit and I want you to look at everybody walking around." She's like, "There's very few beautiful people, but they're all beautiful on the inside."
Right, and then that that beauty extends outward, right?
Yes, but when you're walking, take your camera, focus on pretty things. Just don't walk. Look around you. When you're sitting in your house, get your camera. Focus on the things that you have, not just on the things that you don't have. Because, like we said before, happiness doesn't necessarily come from things, but you can still have happiness with the things that you've got.
Yeah, that's true. I had a counselor during a period of time when I was very negative. He said to me, I want you to go buy two different colored sunglasses, two different frames, and I want you to carry both of them with you. And I said, okay, where's this going? I know you have a plan somewhere. And he said, when you find yourself being negative or find yourself allowing other people to put you down, or even when you catch yourself saying hurtful things to other people to raise yourself up, he said, I want you to stop and take those glasses off and put the other glasses on. And I said, for what? And he said, so you can see things differently. And I was like, wow, what a great idea. And I've used that in coaching. I tell people if you're tired of going to work the same way, take a different road. It might add 10 minutes longer or you might get there quicker, but just take a different road. Change your perspective.
And it's good for your brain.
Yeah, you're 100% correct. It is. And that's what we're talking about today. Yes, there are times when we need to be dependent on someone else because we are in a moment where we need a helping hand. But in chronic cases, that emotional dependency can lead you down a path where depression lives or where you lose your self worth.
I'd like to ask you a question, John, and
Yeah.
tell me if I'm summing this up correctly.
Okay.
I'm in a relationship with my husband whom I love very much. If something were to happen to him, I would be very sad. I
Mhm.
I can't imagine my life without him, but if something happened to him, I can move on. If you're emotionally dependent, the difference is that you would have to go find someone else to be dependent on if you lost someone because you don't know how to be on your own.
Kim, you just summed it up 100%. We all go through grief when we lose someone close to us. But if you never get through the grief and continue to seek solace in someone else, that can lead to emotional dependence. And the way to move beyond that is to try some of the things we talked about today. Because those tools or similar ones will help you find the happiness within and not rely on what you might think is happiness through someone else.
Well, thanks, John. I think you picked a good topic and it's very relevant, I think, for a lot of people.
I agree.
I I just want to take a moment and talk about our next show. We always talk about what our next subject is going to be. I find it almost impossible to not talk about the turmoil that is ravaging the country. I want to do this from that aspect as the emotion chef and talk about the recipes that are out there right now. And we'll kind of get into what an emotion chef is a little bit. And John, I want you to weigh in, please. I want this to be a more of a collaborative show about your perspective as a personal development coach, but also as someone who has received bias because of your lifestyle.
Yeah, I agree. It's something that I cannot not talk about, right? Though it's important, I think, for people to realize this is going to be our personal beliefs. We are not going to give our opinions on the platform on which the Democrats or Republicans are standing.
No.
This is how I get through the day in light of all the chaos and living close to an area that has been hit hard with the struggles right now. I live about 50 miles from Washington, D.C., and it's very concerning, to say the least. No matter what you believe, you are still affected by this. If you feel there is no racism, then you find yourself defending your position when these horrific incidents happen. And if you believe that racism exists, you are directly impacted by the actions of others, and you find the need to have your voice heard. It hits everybody on different levels, from the young to the elderly. You know, Kim, I was listening to the news this morning, and they were asking this elderly woman what it feels like. They asked her if it reminded her of the 60s during the Martin Luther King era and the civil rights unrest, and she said no. This reminds me of a time way before that. Today's unrest puts things into perspective in a profound way that this is a centuries old problem, not just an issue for today. And it needs to stop. It just needs to stop.
Well, it goes way beyond a couple of centuries. And we'll talk about that next week.
Sounds good.
Sounds really good. So, thank you, John, very much, and I wish you a great rest of your week.
Yes, thanks. And you too, Kim. And thank our listeners. Thank you guys so much for
Yep,
joining us every week, your opening your days to us for at least 30 minutes. And we really appreciate that. So everyone have a great week and we will talk to you next Saturday. Kim, have a good week.
you too. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. New shows are available every Saturday right here on HeartMind-ify.podbean.com or wherever you listen. Kim and I would like to thank each and every one of you for allowing us to be a small part of your life. Be kind to yourself and remember, our hearts tell the story, but our mind is the conductor.